Underwater volcanoes are mysterious features that form due to the movement of tectonic plates. They're also the source of many natural disasters like tsunamis, and they've been responsible for some of the most explosive eruptions in history. But we know surprisingly little about them because, well, they're underwater. But here at Life Noggin, we love a good mystery, and we're not afraid of a little danger. So join us as we take a deep dive into the hidden world of underwater volcanoes. The ocean covers more than 70% of our planet's surface, but it only makes up about 3% of its landmass. That's because the ocean floor is covered in mountains, valleys, and yes, even volcanoes. In fact, there are more than 500,000 underwater volcanoes on Earth. And no matter how hard it is to study them, scientists know quite a bit about these undersea mountains. Scientists have actually identified 3 types of underwater volcanoes based on their shape, summit, ring, and gently sloping sides. These are called shield volcanoes. They're formed when runny lava erupts from a central vent or fissure and spreads out over large areas. On land, this type of volcano would be considered dormant or extinct. However, because they're found at depths between 6,600 and 19,700 feet, it's very unlikely that they will ever be seen bubbling again. Another type of underwater volcano is the seamount. Unlike shield volcanoes, seamounts are steep-sided mountains with a flat top, and they usually have a single summit. Scientists believe that they were once active volcanoes that stopped erupting and then became partially submerged by rising sea levels. Some seamounts are so tall that their peaks actually break the water's surface. In fact, many islands like Hawaii and New Zealand's Mayor Island were once seamounts. Seamounts can be home to rare deep-sea ecosystems and are often considered hotspots for biodiversity. A large part of this is due to the presence of marine snow. Marine snow is a mix of dead animals, decaying phytoplankton, and other organic matter that drifts down from the upper layers of the ocean where sunlight can be found. This constant supply of food supports unique communities of organisms like corals, sponges, and fish. But not all underwater volcanoes are extinct. In fact, some of them are highly active. These are called active arc volcanoes. These volcanoes are created by the subduction of an oceanic plate beneath another plate. As the two plates collide, one plate is forced underneath the other. It dives into the mantle, where temperatures and pressure increase dramatically. These conditions turn the rock into magma, which eventually erupts as lava. Active arc volcanoes often form chains of mountains known as volcanic arcs. And unlike extinct volcanoes, they can pose a significant threat to life on Earth. For example, Krakatoa is an active arc volcano located in Indonesia. In 1883, it erupted, producing the loudest sound ever recorded by humans. Its eruption column reached 31 miles into the air and generated a tsunami that killed more than 36,000 people. But Krakatoa isn't the only volcano that's caused major disasters. In 2010, an underwater volcano near the island of Tonga erupted. Although the initial explosion was relatively small, a second eruption followed soon after. This one was much larger and triggered a tsunami that hit Japan. The wave had a height of about 72 feet, which was high enough to destroy buildings and infrastructure along the coast. More than 180 people lost their lives during the disaster. So what do we mean when we say that a volcano is active? Well, there are different levels of activity. An active volcano is one that has erupted within the last 10,000 years. There are about 500 active volcanoes on Earth's ocean floor. Of those, 122 have erupted within the last 100 years. Meanwhile, dormant volcanoes are ones that haven't erupted in more than 10,000 years, but could erupt again. Lastly, extinct volcanoes are ones that won't erupt again. Of course, being technically extinct doesn't mean that a volcano won't cause damage. For instance, Mount Vesuvius in Italy erupted in 79 AD and destroyed the Roman city of Pompeii. However, it wasn't an undersea volcano. It's important to study active underwater volcanoes, not just because they can cause disasters, but also because they play a major role in regulating the global climate. You see, when an underwater volcano erupts, it releases gases like carbon dioxide and water vapor into the atmosphere. These gases can stay in the atmosphere for years and reflect heat back into space. As a result, the surface of the Earth cools, leading to lower temperatures. Some scientists believe that these volcanic eruptions may have played a role in the end of the Cretaceous period, when the dinosaurs went extinct. But the cooling effect of volcanic eruptions can be counteracted by another process: ocean acidification. When underwater volcanoes erupt, they release carbon dioxide into the ocean. This reacts with seawater to form carbonic acid. This can then lead to a decrease in the pH of the ocean, making it more acidic. Ocean acidification can have negative effects on marine organisms, especially those that have calcium carbonate shells or skeletons, such as corals, oysters, and clams. The increased acidity can make it harder for these organisms to build and maintain their shells. This can lead to weaker shells and skeletons, making them more vulnerable to predators and environmental stress. Additionally, ocean acidification can affect the growth and reproduction of these species, potentially impacting their populations and the overall health of the ocean ecosystem. Okay, so now that we know why it's important to study underwater volcanoes, let's talk about how scientists go about doing that. One way that scientists study underwater volcanoes is through remotely operated vehicles, or ROVs. ROVs are unmanned vehicles that can be controlled from the surface to explore deep sea environments. They typically have cameras, lights, and manipulators like arms or claws to collect samples or manipulate objects. By using ROVs, scientists can observe the morphology and activity of underwater volcanoes without risking human lives. They can also deploy various instruments to collect data on temperature, pressure, currents, and chemical properties of the volcanic environment. But if you want to get up close and personal with an underwater volcano, you might want to try scuba diving. Yeah, really. Take a look at this footage captured by ocean explorer Robert Ballard, the man who discovered the Titanic. He used a remotely operated vehicle called Jason JRB to explore the summit of an active volcano named Axial Seamount. The images revealed a previously unknown ecosystem of mussels, sea stars, and fish living around the volcano's vents. So we know that underwater volcanoes can support unique ecosystems. But how exactly do they do that? As we mentioned earlier, many underwater volcanoes emit gases that can have a cooling effect on the surrounding waters. This creates an environment that is different from the warmer waters above it. Additionally, underwater volcanoes often release minerals and nutrients into the water column through hydrothermal vents. These vents are openings in the seafloor from which heated water is released. The minerals and nutrients can support the growth of phytoplankton and other primary producers, forming the basis for unique food webs. Furthermore, the energy released from underwater volcanic activity can create currents and upwelling zones. These can bring oxygen-rich water from the surface to deep depths, supporting aerobic respiration in the benthic zone. This contrasts with most deep-sea environments, which tend to have low oxygen levels. Finally, the physical structure of underwater volcanoes provides a variety of habitats and niches for marine organisms to exploit. The rough, rocky surfaces can provide shelter for small fish and invertebrates, while the vents and chimneys can create unique chemical gradients that support specialized organisms. Overall, the combination of unique environmental conditions, food sources, and habitats created by underwater volcanoes contributes to the formation of distinct ecosystems that differ from surrounding deep-sea environments. There's still so much that we don't know about underwater volcanoes, but hopefully one day we'll uncover all of their secrets. From their explosive eruptions to their ability to support unique ecosystems, there is much to explore and understand about these fascinating features. If you like learning about our planet's fiery undersea landscape, make sure to check out the rest of the content. Thanks for watching.